Good morning from Easier Habits Live, your favorite 8 a.m. Central Business live stream. I'm Alec.
And I am Meg.
All right, and today we will be continuing our brainstorm for the 5-day challenge. Yesterday we were thinking about what outcome in general we want for the challenge, and we'll be breaking that down into what outcome do we want for each day. The goal, again, with any brand, especially a brand where you are a consultant, a coach, an expert, etc., is you want to give people a quick win. And so each day of the challenge should give them something they didn't have before, or like something tangible, some tangible progress, etc. So we'll be brainstorming that. But first, the communication tip of the day.
Communication tip, yay! I was thinking what I wanted to do for this one because I'm not in like the middle of a series or whatever, and I'm going to be gone starting tomorrow. And so, just kind of thinking about what are the things that I'm going to need to remember communication-wise. And I think the biggest thing in general with communication is remember that other people are different. And I know that sounds super vague, but basically how that plays out in day-to-day conversation is first recognizing that people are different from you, right? So the assumptions that you make are not necessarily going to be assumptions that they make, and vice versa. They might be making some assumptions that you aren't. And clarifying questions and things like that are very useful for dealing with that. But then also, other people that you interact with can be different from each other. And it's important to learn how to recognize those cues, right? How are your words being received? Is the person just smiling and nodding, right? And do you think they're actually smiling and like nodding? Or is it like the, yeah, okay, whatever, stop talking, right? And so how you can figure those things out is honestly through a lot of observation, but also recognizing that it is going to be different from person to person. The more time you spend with someone, the more you'll get to know their cues. And if it's somebody who's new to you, right, I generally say kind of suspend any assumption making for a while and just be very clear and open, asking a lot of questions. And again, being open to the fact we talked about a couple of weeks ago or last week or whatever about those awkward conversations saying, I don't, I know this can be like hard or weird or whatever, but I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. So could we just, go over this thing one more time, or could I ask you about that? And I think by being open, right, then that kind of surpasses, or it will help compensate, there we go, for lack of understanding with how that person communicates and kind of interacts with the world. And then the other thing that not everybody's going to do that, right? So people will still make assumptions about you. Some of them might not, but also a lot of people will, and that's okay, right? Recognizing that, oftentimes it's not about you, it's about them. So the assumptions you make about the assumptions they're making about you, which I know is a little bit crazy, but that's also a thing to be aware of.
How would you summarize this?
I know, I'm thinking like summary. Don't assume anything when you're talking with people. People are different.
That's true. And like what you said was giving me, just thinking about it, mild social anxiety, just listening to like all of the watch all their cues, and they could be assuming things about you, and don't assume stuff about them.
Yeah.
Way too much for someone like me to think about. And so
Yeah.
the way I handle that is what's important to them. What is important to them? What is the most important thing to them? And contextually, if you get to know someone, you can figure out like what's important to them in life.
Yeah.
Right. But you may not have time for that. But asking people things like, what do you want to get out of this?
Yeah.
What are you looking for? What are you most excited about right now? What's most important to you right now? How important is this thing to you? Like, your tip from yesterday,
Yeah.
all of those things about getting out what is most interesting to them. And those are the blunt ways of doing it. You can also watch
Yeah.
them to see when they light up and kind of when they tune out to see what grabs their attention.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of details that are different that you could get lost in.
Yes.
But you will be doing fantastically if you keep in mind that people's top priority is different. And the one place where you sometimes get into trouble, and it's one of the reasons why I like working for myself versus working in a workplace, is a lot of times what people will tell you is most important to them is the workplace, is the project, or, quality work, or doing something, and 99 times out of 10, really, literally 99 times out of 10, more often than there are chances.
Wait a second. The math does not compute.
It works out in practice.
Okay.
But 99 times out of 10, that person is just trying to get through the day. That's what's most important to them.
Yeah.
Right? Versus doing the project right, doing the, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and I think the other thing to help lessen the social anxiety of this is recognize what you're trying to get out of the interaction. You don't have to have that same heightened level of paying attention to everybody with every single person, right? You might want to have a little bit more when it's somebody who's a potential client or, coworker, collaborator, somebody like that, or employer, something like that. But, strangers on the street, it's a fun thought experiment, to kind of do it, but also removing yourself from, whatever consequences. You don't have to worry about it. And I guess that's where, for me, I love watching people and their interactions and things and finding those, little micro expressions. There was a woman sitting, a couple seats away from us on Saturday who I don't know what had happened, but she was not happy. And seeing the different, micro expressions she made, I was like, okay, this is not about me. I'm pretty sure. Man. And so, there's a little bit of anxiety because I was sitting next to her. But also, recognizing that I wasn't trying to get anything out of that. And so it was okay for me to kind of observe without being affected by the observations. And so that can be a good way to practice. And also recognizing, even if it is somebody that you care about that relationship, there are going to be miscommunications, and that's okay. But yeah, I get that the social anxiety thing can be a lot. I don't know how not to do that because I went through so much of my early life not paying attention to any of this stuff and getting me in a lot of trouble. And so my default now is to pay attention to it most of the time. I can, decide then if I want to continue as planned or if I want to adjust what I was intending to say or how I was going to say it. And I don't always, but I can. But I can't turn off that, paying attention to the reactions of people.
Yeah. I spent most of my life growing up, trying to find patterns in what people said, their verbal stuff. And you can go fairly far with that because over time, even if people are not 100% honest about their intentions or whatever, or, honest with themselves about their intentions, with what they say, patterns will emerge over time. But yeah, there's a lot of things that people will never say, at work, they will never say that all they care about is just finishing the day. Right. But that's most people.
Finishing the day and looking like they did something.
Yeah.
To whoever they care
about.
Right,
getting by. And collecting their paycheck is really what they're there for. So, and I can look at my family and see the same thing with all the people in my family, right? Yeah. That a lot of their block when they were working for someone else is they wanted to impress the person by doing a good job when that person was incapable of even telling if they did a good job because they don't care. They're just trying to get through the day, right? And this is why it's powerful, right? That observing the difference between what you want to give someone and what they actually want is if you had focused on making their day easier, you would have gotten a lot of recognition.
Yeah.
And so, right, because you're trying to go for the wrong thing. So.
Yeah. And that, I think that's huge.
Right. I mean, people say they want results, for example. Most of the time they don't, actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. The person who owns the company wants results because they want the company to grow, but like, if you're not careful, right, a lot of people, and over time, the bigger the company gets, the more, diffuse the culture and the mission, etc., the more people are just trying to get through the day because they don't even see the clear vision day to day,
And I think a lot of the times I've seen this with my clients is they'll hire you because of the promise of results, but they will keep working with you because of the experience, right? It's not about the results they're getting. It's about how they feel working with you and their perceived results, I guess, or the perceived, kind of benefit of that interaction. And so, not that, results don't matter. They do, very much so. But there's a lot that you can, overcome not a lot of results with, like, a good interaction.
Well, most people are starved for quality relationships.
Yeah. It's the world we live in.
Especially in the business.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot more we can dive into that.
There's so much. I love this. It's so
but yeah, what, like, someone's actual, like, top goal, that is the thing. And if you're asking yourself that question and then observing for that, that will get you a lot of mileage.
Yep.
So, all right, so we have a 5-day, I almost said 15-day challenge.
Too many days.
Too many days.
I've got a 15-day challenge coming up.
Yeah. All right. You need to plan a win for each day.
I do need to plan a win for each day. I'll think about that.
All right. So, all right, 5-day challenge, and we were moving towards the marketing.
Yes.
All right.
So being able to create a short video highlighting a product or service that they want to share with the world.
So, yeah, this is probably most likely skewing towards B2C, like business to customer. Although you could use such a thing to get yourself introductions to another business or something, or show people what you do.
Yeah.
So it is just pitching yourself to another person.
Yeah.
And but probably, that'll skew more towards the B2C customers, and that's the end result. So how are you going to get them a win each of those 5 days?
Yeah. So the first day, I want them to feel like they can do something in English with exactly how they are. So no help from me, maybe a little help from Google Translate because, it's a thing. But recognizing that the English they have now is enough to, have 30 seconds of content, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to whatever. And so that's the first one that I want for them, for sure.
What is that thing that they're going to do?
Write a script.
Okay.
So have a script in English. It can be a direct translation from their Japanese script. It doesn't even have to be a lot of words, because sometimes these, videos are more about showing the product, right? Rather than like talking. So, some type of script that demonstrates their product or service in English. Full stop.
Okay. So are they going to read the script?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think, like, so this is where I wonder, like, how much to do each day, because I don't want to overload people. I want people to have good, easy wins each day, but at what point do I stop? Do I have them just write the script? Do I have them write and record it? Do I have them... So, I don't know.
I mean, so again, think in terms of win. Like, I guess a script is taking action. So that's something. And in the sense of a class, it starts a baseline. But I'm trying to think of, like... unless this is for procrastinators who haven't taken action, like what is the win? What's the value add?
That they have a starting place for the next day.
See, that's not a win, right?
That's fair. Okay. So this is hard, like this part of it, because I'm so used to academia, where one day builds off of the next day, builds off of the next day, or whatever. Like,
and people are there because they need the certificate, not because they care about the class.
Exactly.
Until grad school. At least.
Exactly. So,
Right.
this is hard. Thinking not in terms of like progression, especially when I think in like a 5-day thing. I don't think of like a single win for each day. I think of like building wins, like prerequisites. But again, we've talked about that's not always the way to go.
Well, and all right, teach them something about the pitch, right? Is it like start with the end in mind? For instance, what action do you want people to take as a result of this pitch? Right? And how are you going to get them ready to take that action? And then maybe you back up the rest of the time and talk about, benefits versus features the next day, or introducing your, like, building authority yourself. A hook. Actually, probably, hook
is good.
Benefits, features, and authorities usually the order these types of videos go in.
Yeah, well, and I think too what we talked about the other day, the start with why, I think would be really good for this group, just because they're all going to start with what, I'm sure. I mean, that's an assumption I'm making, but so starting with why. So if we have that and say, okay, you're going to do this a little differently. You're still going to use your English as is, but you're going to start with why, and then write your script. And I feel like it's not a big deal just to audio record it and share that with the group.
Right.
That seems like it would be reasonable.
That would be great. And again, if you did this, you could do the survey like, hey, would you be willing to let me do before and after?
Yes, exactly.
Videos. So, all right. Well, and so it's doing a few things. Losing my voice.
It's crazy weather right now. We're getting another ice storm.
Right. Here, let me get some water over here. Reach.
Yeah. I had a sno day, preemptive snow day yesterday. They're like, it's going to be bad weather tomorrow, so you just don't come to school.
Right. Yeah.
So
we're kind of lightweights in Texas that way.
Yes.
All right. So that's doing a couple things. It's taking action, but it's also having them produce something as a result of that action. So like not just having a script, but having an audio. I mean, that could be easily released in, a format. Like that, the audio could be shared over, in your groups or whatnot. So
well, and I figured this is their rough draft, and it's not going to be the final product, but it will be something to get them moving and get them in the habit of producing. We talk a lot in this group about output, right? The necessity for output in making progress and growth and change and things like that you learn more by using or creating or talking about something than you do just consuming it passively. So.
Yeah. And so, all right. So day one, start with why or the benefit to the customer, and record.
Yep.
So day two would be, and these are all things, again, like you can run this live, answer questions the first time and get feedback, but also as we're thinking about designing it, they should be things where you can give them a lesson and they can do it on their own eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like, because the goal is like, this is something that's automatable. So none of these days should, for instance, depend on your feedback.
I know. Ooh. And that's hard because I want to give my feedback.
Yeah. And you can do that like in the first few challenges, but eventually the idea is the feedback and the personal contact is the upsell.
Yeah.
Or at least a free session in which you can upsell them, right?
Yeah.
So using that to move people forward. So like none of these should conceptually rely on that. Like there shouldn't be a day that's like, this is where I give you personalized feedback on your pitch.
That makes sense. Well, and I think too, what I will probably do at the beginning of this is say, can I use you guys as case studies that I can share then in future ones, so that I won't necessarily have to give active feedback to everybody, but they can see the types of feedback that that I'm doing, and so they can say, oh, okay, this is what that person did originally, and this is how Meg fixed it to be more natural English. Edited, revised, there we go. And so I can do that in the future. So I think that right there would be hugely beneficial to a lot of people. And so I'm going to write that down. Remember to ask permission.
Yeah.
So
another day, what are other days? So
okay.
other pieces of like content, and then get them to revise and record every day, and like, you know, halfway through switch to video and be doing multiple, getting them used to multiple takes of video, right?
Yes.
So.
Okay, so I don't want to have to deal too much with the technical side of this, but I think there should at least be one day on like the tools that you use for making these types of videos. So, you know, and I'm trying to think. There's so much content. I'm like, I could do a whole course. No, okay, 5-day challenge. 5-day challenge. Keep it small. Because, you know, I'm wanting to go over like the structure of a VSL and the benefits and, you know, whatever of showing your face over, you know, just like pictures or music or, you know, whatever. But like, I think there should be at least one day of that kind of physical structure of the video, right? What kind of images are you using? Are you having your face out there for people to see, or is it just your voice? And if not your face, why not? Because most people, they're just embarrassed to be seen online. I know one person who has a legit reason for not having his face shown, but everybody else, it's just embarrassment. That guy just, you know, he's still working for a company, and if they got wind of him doing a lot of this stuff, they'd not like it very much. So yeah, it's, you know, I think a day on like the visuals and structure. So are you going to do like a straight video and clip pieces together, or images kind of slideshow style, or whatever?
All right, so do we need a day just on the technical thing? Like the win is they now know how to use tools they didn't know how to use before.
Okay, if that counts as a win, yes.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Right.
So day 2, technical. And that can also give us another day for people to be giving feedback to each other.
Right. And yeah, it's an interesting order to do. Like people might start with the technical, like how you do it, but like produce some content, do the technical. All right. And yeah, I would focus again, just singular win. So like introduce them to the tools. Now like VSL structure could be a third day.
Okay.
Or something.
Now that one I would feel like like I want them to start with this is what they have now. You know, with the starting with why, like do that. Okay, so if we have the technical as day 2, and then they're doing feedback to each other as we go along, and then their deliverable for day 2 would be like at least like if they're doing a slide, you know, or like a title image or something like that, at least one slide of, you know, that uses Canva.
Thumbnail?
Yeah, thumbnail. That's the word. I'm like, slide. What is... Okay, yes. So plus thumbnail. Okay. I like that. Okay, so then day 3. I think it is good to have that VSL structure because it will make sure that they get all of the things covered that they may not have in their original one. So they may have started with why, but do they have their, you know, target audience? Do they have the problem, you know, that they're addressing and how theirs is better than other people's? So, okay, so we'll do VSL structure and then have them restructure their initial one based on that. Day 4, I think would be good to do more like advanced, like focus on the English side of it, because by this point they'll have gotten enough stuff that will be able to put more emphasis on the actual language that they're using.
And all right, now this is where it sounds almost like you're starting to get tempted to, like, this is a day that will depend on your individual feedback to their English.
No, okay, so that's and yes, I can see why that sounds that way. So what I'm going to do for this one is I will be taking examples from their stuff, right? And specifically saying, okay, you said this here, this is better. You said this here, this is better. But in future sessions, I'll just have all of that recorded.
Okay.
And so I'll just use the ones from previous ones.
All right. Yeah. Common English mistakes or whatever.
Yes. Common English mistakes and ways to fix it. It's amazing. I taught the word facilitate, right, in the business world or whatever. And then a couple days later, one of the people in that room used it. And I was like, you sound so businesslike. And like, it was just this automatic reaction for, him using like, oh, we facilitate the, acquisition of something. And I was like, wow, that totally leveled up his, business presence, I guess, just with certain words like that. So you don't want to overuse words like synergize.
Well, and this day is, it hinges on that there are common enough challenges that pre-recorded videos of other people are helpful.
Yes. And so well, actually, I mean, part of this will be a bit of a test to see like, is this...
I'm sure you'll get feedback that it's helpful when you're doing it live. The question is
it going to be,
is it going to be valuable? And so I think on that day, you might think of like, what are things that are common enough that they would need? So like the VSL is the structure level, kind of like paragraph level or essay level, right? Structure if you're thinking of writing.
Yeah.
Whereas this would be more like sentence level common issues, like how do you address your audience, or do you address your audience, right? How do you talk about yourself or something like that, right? The specific
I like that.
Tips. And then day 5
would be putting it all together. Right. So
video. Creating and posting the final video. On day 3 or 4, are they producing anything? Are they videotaping themselves days 3 and 4 and practicing? So 5 is the 5th iteration, or 5 is like the...
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because one, it gets them used to that practice, right? That daily output. And even though it's going to be changing, that's actually kind of better in some ways, because I think people worry so much about having the perfect thing first and then being able to practice that perfect thing lots of times, as opposed to creating a thing and practicing it, knowing that you are going to change it, but still finding value in that practice. So I think that's a great idea. With each one of these, their English will change a little bit, and then they'll be able to have recording, and they'll have their thumbnail on day 2 as well.
It'll change a little bit, but by day 5 it'll be more fluent because there'll still be a lot of things that they've already practiced.
Yes, exactly.
In some form or fashion. And this structure actually mimics when I was a high school essay tutor, right? The idea you help someone first with their thesis, the benefits to the client, then structure the VSL thing, right? The overall structure, then sentence level stuff. And then, like style and other things. But
and I think too, posting and sharing, right? So that being part of it rather than just like putting it up on YouTube and being like, okay, it's there. But like actually actively sharing it with people, I think should be a part of that day.
Well, and
sharing it with each other, sharing it with our networks.
I mean, that would be a benefit where if in the future if this is structured where they have a feedback space, even if you don't have to be providing the feedback, like the people who go through the challenge right at the same time have a space for feedback, and it could be something you check or something, like you chime in or whatever and give encouragement, but then at the end if they're encouraged to share each other's videos, that's also another big boost, because one of the hardest things is like getting viewers on your first video, and so like having a baked in group would be really powerful.
Well, and I think I could see them really helping each other each iteration, not just sharing it with each other, right? But finding other platforms, to share things. So, I belong to this group on Facebook that would really benefit from this video, especially since they're not necessarily actively selling, and so it's kind of that fine line where they're marketing themselves, but they're not like hard selling kind of a thing. And so, because a lot of groups don't like hard sales videos or whatever, but
well, and you'd have to get really clear on what they're producing it for, because someone easily could be producing and call me or whatever, or this is where you buy my stuff, like,
at which point put it on LinkedIn,
right? But yeah, that's where it's like, I wouldn't assume it's not that.
Yeah,
that
it's true. It's
someone
true.
really might want to produce that. And that would be a different thing. Like, right, that would be a different, you could use almost the same structure, but tweak it for like marketing versus sales video.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're using VSL, it is more sales,
It
right?
is, that's true.
But like a marketing one, like social media marketing, content marketing is very different, because you might not be selling them on anything if it's content marketing, which is a kind of different course.
There's so many things.
So yeah, it's a future version of that.
Man, there's so much stuff out there though that like I see all of these things that there are to do, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. It gets me excited.
So all right, we've got an outline. If you could like email that to me too.
Yep, I can do that.
I can start trying, and so actually this will go into maybe the market research tip. Well, this will be a very active one. So now what we have is an idea for a 5-day challenge. And Meg is going to take this, and she's going to do market research live with people, not asking them first about the challenge, as we talked about yesterday, but asking them about, what they need to enhance their online presence, or, how what would be the benefits of reaching out to an English audience, if any, for them. Yeah. Right? If not, they're not your audience. And then what's keeping them from doing that those kinds of things. Yeah. And then at the end, you can talk about your 5-day challenge and think like, hey, I'm thinking about doing these things. How do they address what you just said? Yeah. And you'll get a more complete and honest answer doing that, versus like someone trying to, trying to figure out how what you said is good, but just because they're supportive human beings, right? Yeah. They're agreeable. So that's kind of from yesterday, recap of yesterday's. What I'm going to do though, when I take this, is I'm going to start with competitors. Okay. So I want to find other people, I want to find other challenges for producing a video, a VSL, a sales, or courses, or whatnot, see what benefits they're selling, and try and see who's successful enough, look at their pages, how much traffic they actually get, etc. Yeah. Other indications. And so the business tip of the day for market research is, when you're doing online market research, a great place is to start with competitors. If you can't find any, chances are you just don't understand the market and what they're looking for and how they're advertising themselves. So you just need to change your language and search language. That's at 90% of the time if you're actually selling something that people are buying. But there is the other alternative, right? If you don't find any competitors, like no one's buying stuff in this space, and you should look for evidence that people are, right? Yeah. And then see if there's evidence that people are buying stuff, who they're buying it from. There's your competitor, right? Yay! So start with the competitors, look for people who seem to be successful and try and find like metrics. There are tools to find, how many visitors they have on a website, how much they're willing to spend on ads, if you can, find some of that, or like, keywords, even if it's not linked to a specific competitor. If you can find keywords that people are paying a lot for, you may not want to compete on that when you're running ads or doing SEO or other things, right? You might want to target those keywords, but it's good to know what the big keywords are, because that tells you what people are searching for, what works, what advertisements normally convert, because there's a lot of competition for them. So like, those those numbers of, how expensive a keyword is, how much site a traffic gets, how many followers they have on their socials, etc., our indication of like they're doing something successfully, unless they just paid for followers or something.
Yeah.
Follow bots on Twitter. So
Bots.
look for engagements, I guess, even better than followers. Like if they get lots of engagements on their posts.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable.
And so you take a look at those people in your space, and you're gonna and what I'm gonna start doing is looking specifically for like, you know, what are they selling that's similar? What are the benefits, right? So that I don't have to. I mean, we come up with some stuff. Maybe we'll validate some of the stuff we have. Maybe we'll get new ideas. But so that I don't have to like come up from scratch, like marketing copy saying, you know, this. I'm not a marketer, right? But there's a lot of people who are. So just learn from them, right?
Yay!
And that's why you find competitors. It's great to start with your competitors.
Yeah.
And then, you know, down the road, there's other things you can do, like find lookalike audiences, people who are interested in so-and-so, or you can, when you find their audience, you can see what interests they have, and you could target those interests on advertisements. So yeah, starting with the competitors is a great way to start, especially with online market research. And there's so much information available these days. It's great.
So much.
Maybe a little too much.
Yay! Yeah, that's true. It's easy to get lost. But
all right. So I think that covers it for today. I think for the next couple of weeks, I will just break down pieces of this. So tomorrow I will go ahead and...
Are we going to be here tomorrow?
Oh, you're right. I will try and film a video today.
Okay.
So it will not be live, but for the next few days, next several days, I will have videos of... some of it live, of me working through this process tomorrow. Probably what I will do is then just do a quick video backing up and looking at what we got from Jeremy of Innovative Marketing.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of showing some of the notes and the competitors that he's identified, right?
Yep.
Some of the tools. So,
yeah,
and
tomorrow we're going to the airport. Well, he's taking me to the airport. So,
yep.
I'm so excited, and I'll miss you guys 2 whole weeks. But that's okay. I'll be back, and I'll be in touch. So
yeah. So if this has been helpful, then, you know, subscribe, like, share. We're trying to get the word out and build a community of entrepreneurs that can sign in and support each other, or after the fact in comments, ask questions, get suggestions and feedback, not only from us, but from other people.
Yeah.
So it really helps when you do subscribe, like, or share the video so that we can help more small businesses and startups.
Yep. All right. Have a great day.
Until tomorrow, make big changes, one small habit at a time.